everyone, I'm Denisha Devnarayan, and you're watching the Full Quota podcast on One World Sports Radio.
And hello, and welcome to another episode of the Full Quota podcast. Tim, do you know how many episodes this is now?
24?
25. Just 25.
One out.
We're a quarter of the century there. I don't know what our strike rate is. You'll let us know what our strike rate is, what our average is. But thank you very much for all the support to everyone who's watched and listened. We welcome you to our show. It's a weekly South African cricket show with myself and Tim. And we've also got Tepo and Chris, who normally will join, but they'll probably join once the World Cup starts, as we unpack everything either leading up to the World Cup and also during the tournament. Remember, you can interact with us on all these various platforms. On the various platforms. We are currently live on YouTube and also on Facebook as well as Twitter. Please also do subscribe. But yeah, thanks for the support. Thank you very much. But now, this week, we're still talking CSA T20 KnockOut competition. The final group is done, Group C. Last week we had Group D. Group C was done over the weekend, and next week we've got the playoffs. I don't want to call them knockout stages, it's the playoffs. There's a lot of urgency going around, and I love it. But we're going to talk Group C because it had an interesting team that I think the whole of South Africa had never seen play outside of the tournaments that they usually play, which is SA Under-19. Tim, what did you make of Group C as a whole, in terms of how it was played?
I thought it was a really good pool. I really enjoyed it. I thought there were some really good performances. We will get to that later. I really think that Eastern's they were just a couple of runs short in two games. One game was 1 run, another one was 8. We could have had 2 division teams from the Division 2 setup in the quarterfinals. It went right down to the end, right down to the wire. So it had pretty much everything. We will obviously get into the 19 guys. I thought overall they performed well.
And they should be getting these opportunities going forward.
And this is a good shop window for them. I was annoyed with the way Twitter was reacting to the performances, because these are essentially kids playing against men who've played season after season at the franchise level. This was a clear step up for them. This was a good step up for them to show them what they need to do going forward. So yeah, overall good.
And to a certain extent, on that SA Under-19, if people can look back to their age groups and their time in high school, it was always the teams that won were the teams that were the most talented. It never went down to tactics. You are asking kids to play in a man's game. Even now, when they go to the World Cup, effectively they're going to go to the World Cup with a script, and they have to follow that script, because from a tactical perspective, they're still very young. So they walk out there, they know that at over 5, so-and-so balls. Regardless of what goes on, that's what's going to happen. It lacks adaptability, but that's the nature of the Under-19 game, which is why sometimes when people say there are 2 people at the World Cup for South Africa who know how to win a World Cup before, not really. They know how to follow a script to a T and beat other children with probably a team that had probably more talent than the other countries. But they don't know how to adapt from over 4 to over 5 if you're getting beaten. And to a certain extent, for me, SA Under-19 were beaten based on that. They did an incredible job to get that 172, which I love to see. But my perspective was they will need to learn to adapt. And one of the things, and we'll talk about it later on, were the partnerships. They weren't able to adapt. It's like they went out with a script, and that's fine, because they're the best talented youngsters we have in the country. And I loved it because they could see what is required to even play Division 2 cricket. The Division 2 side that they played with is probably the one. They probably are They are probably not a shoe-in. They're probably favorites to win the Division 2 title in the 4-day series. So I like the fact that they got the exposure. I like the fact that they got to learn from it. And I also like the fact that they could see that after this, there's a life after SA under 19 and what it takes to make it there. Yes, you got the guys who did well, but to be harsh on them is a little bit tough because they're kids. They still have to grow. They're still gonna probably grow 2 more inches. Some of them are still going to get a lot more pacier. Others are going to get their hand-eye coordination, but there's a lot of coaching that still needs to go into these guys. And I love it because we're giving them an opportunity, A, to prepare for the World Cup next year, and B, to see the future, to know that, okay, we can be part of the pipeline. Werner on YouTube says it was good exposure for the under-19s. They learned a lot from this experience. That's true. And he also comes in and says it's a shame that Diva Brevis only got 2 games, but he definitely looked to do all the hype around him justice. Good to see him burning leggies as well. Should be a real asset at the under-19 World Cup, and that's very true. He's and that's how you win World Cups. You have kids like that who can separate you from the rest of the world. South Africa had KG at the time, and he was able to get into other teams' top orders. Aiden Markram also was a world beater at under 19 level, and so that's how you win these tournaments. You don't win these tournaments because of you deciding to bowl 40 overs a spin. You win these tournaments off the back of individual performances, and you just hope that when you're defending totals, your fielding's just as good. But we'll get there later on. Let's just go through some of the results. In Group C, the Dolphins played the Dragons, the 2 Division 1 sides. The Dolphins won that by 8 wickets. It was a slightly easier win than I loved to see from the Dolphins. I expect a little bit more from the Dragons, who started off pretty well in that game. SA under 19 against the Eastern Storm. The Storm won by 8 wickets. And then and that was the game. SA under 19 scored 172. So it was a really good showing from a very strong Division 2 side to kind of give SA under 19 a bit of a wake-up call. SA under 19 against the Dragons, the Dragons won by 43 runs. They set them 143. I thought it was a good bowling effort from under 19s, but the Dragons were just too good at the end of the day. The Hollywood Bets Dolphins against the Eastern Storm. That one was a tight one. The Storm, oh my word, like lots to say about them. They are effectively 9 runs away from a semi-final spot, and or 1 run away, but they could have been 9 runs away from actually topping the group. That's how close it was. SA under 19 against the Hollywood Bets Dolphins. The Dolphins won by 10 wickets in that game. Pretty easy chase there for the top 2 was Keegan Peterson and Grant Rudolphson. Closing it out was really, really easy. And then the Dragons against the Storm, the upset alert that I called on Sunday afternoon, I thought the Storm were going to pip this one. And somehow, the Dragons made it home. Just unbelievable cricket there. You can see the 2 teams that have made it through. Tim, what did you make of that final game? Because that one was just insane.
It was crazy. It was absolutely, it could have gone either way. Topsy-turvy, changing it all the time. I'll even admit when the Easterns were chasing and I think they were 6 down and needing another 60 odd, I went and did something else. And ran a few errands, and then I came back and it was actually
time.
It wasn't actually. It should have been done. It was okay. They should do it now, and then Muthusami. We said that would be interesting last week. Muthusami's experience moving over to the Northwest, deciding to make the change. That would be very important for somebody like him to step up for the Northwest, and boy, did he step up with the bat in that game. 62 of 38 deliveries was actually the difference. His innings was the difference in that game. But it could have gone either way. I was heartbroken. I really, really wanted Easton's. I have no affiliation with the Easton's, but it would have been really nice to have had two Division 2 sides in the quarterfinals. But they did really well, just short at the end.
Yeah, and that was the disappointing thing. I've always thought Easterns were a very good, even before the franchise era, the Easterns were always a good team in the provincial side, and they kind of showed you they don't have that larger squad. They effectively are Northern's poorer cousin, and they played really well. Grant Thompson came through. Yuri Snowman did quite well for them. And yeah, just really disappointing that they couldn't come over the line. But that's what a Division 2 side is. You will struggle to win games, and when you do win games, you win them with errors. You'll bungle your way to the win. Look at how Southwestern Districts did it in that first week. It wasn't pretty against Western Province. There were moments where you kind of were like, Province actually going to win this because these guys are going to throw this away. But somehow they got over the line, and that's what you kind of need from a team like that. What was your standout performance of this group?
The standout performance for me would have to be Devon Brevis. A lot of talk about Brevis, a lot of talk before the tournament, and what impressed me about him more than anything was the ability that he had to pierce the boundaries, to pierce the field, but along the ground. He did go airborne from time to time, but the ability, especially early on, when they had the inner ring to deal with in the power plays, he actually decided, no, I'm going to pierce the field. So he hit it between the fielders on the offside, both on the off and the leg side. I don't think it's helpful to have him compared with anybody. Devon Brevis is Devon Brevis. So I think that's very important for him going forward. And that does worry me.
Well, look, it doesn't help that he wears the number 17.
Yeah.
So, like,
change the number to. But I heard a lot about him when he was at Uffy's and stuff. I hadn't really seen a bit on the live streams. But at this level, against these kind of bowlers that he had against proper seasoned professionals, he was extremely, extremely impressive. And at no time did he look rushed. That was the other thing. At no time did you think, well, this is a bit too much for him. He really looked like he belonged at the setup.
Yeah. And he looked like a guy who could be playing at this level. Of the SA under 19s, he was the one guy I was like, okay, this kid's ready. You can actually throw him into that northern side and he'd make that northern side better. And effectively, it kind of was, maybe Mandla and Jeff will let us know, maybe they were planning around Deerveld to actually be part of that Northern's T20 side, that Titans T20 side, because to a certain extent, he is a member of the franchise coming up this season. So it was, if you look at all those strike rates, if Deerveld Brevis was in there in that middle order or middle to top order, the Titans could have had a really nice weapon there at the top. So I kind of feel sorry for them, but I'm actually not that sorry.
I'm just going to get there quickly. Just on that, I know for a fact that some of the quarterfinal teams have been trying to get the SA under 19 guys in for the quarterfinals and have failed.
Yes, because you've already played the tournament.
I know, but you can't blame them for wanting to do it. You can't blame them for saying that they're out of the competition. Can we now have our boys back? So they did try. But yeah,
good on
CSA.
CSA said no. Good on CSA. I want the Titans to lose to Southwestern Districts. That's what I want. Okay, my stand-up performance was that 172 for SA under 19. I'm calling it a team performance because I don't think many people expected SA under 19 to put up 172 runs. B, they played over the weekend with a lot less fear than the elders essentially in cricket. Every team throughout this tournament, outside of some of the Division 2 sides, played with a level of fear, a level of let's try get ourselves something respectable. And to a certain extent, it is part of the game, but what I loved about SA Under 19 is that they started off guns blazing. They tried to continue the wave. Yes, it slowed down, but they had enough momentum to get them to 172. And that's how T20 has been played around the world. Everyone else wants to try and start with a crescendo, or will start slowly and build up to a crescendo, whereas SA Under 19 started big, took advantage of that power play, and yes, they lost wickets. They lost a lot of momentum, but because they had such a great start, they ended up at a very nice number. And maybe that's another way to look at our cricket. And Shukri Conrad must be applauded for allowing them to be fearless. They got bowled out for 99. They didn't do much in that last game, that 115 all out. But it was fearlessness. But they came up against some very good Division 1 bowling. Eldred Hawken is no joke. Senaran is also no joke. You've got Othniel Batman, you've got Darren de Pavillon. So you expected those, but against the Division 2 opponent, they managed to put up 172. So I'm really happy for them, because it kind of gives them, it kind of warrants their play, their style of play. Because at the World Cup, if they played like this, we could actually do something going deep, because I don't see any other under 19s in the world lighting up that tournament. And if they do, that's fine. But I was really impressed by that. Your standout performer. So the one player that stood out for you. We've gone through the performance. Now it's the performer. Who was the one that stood out for you?
I'm gonna go with a Division 2 player. I'm going to go with Yuri Snowman.
Okay.
Yuri Snowman, not too many people will know about him. Made 49 of 22 against SA Under 19s. He made a 33 of 15 against Northwest in the game they lost. Picked up 5 wickets for 73 at 6 and over in the tournament. So ability with both bat and ball. In both the innings, particularly in the SA Under 19 game, the way he cleared the boundary several meters on several occasions. Big, clean hitter of the ball. Good, decent off spinner. And also, when the things were getting really tight against the Northwest, his fielding was exceptional, and he was sort of in the inner ring, stopping the quick singles and stuff. So for me, he would be like your for me. He was a really, really impressive performer, and I'd be a little bit surprised if next year somebody from the Division 1 doesn't go, you know what, we could use with him at a sort of 5-6 role.
In the longer format of the game as well.
Yeah.
What I liked, the one guy I was happy for was Grant Rulofsson. I think Grant Rulofsson had this reputation of just being a 50-over player, or even a more of a longer format player. In this tournament, he showed that he's not. He's only been out once, scored 134 runs, so his average is 134. His strike rate's 171.82. Really, really good performance from him. We know what Sarel Arvia can do. The question was, the other openers, Keegan Peterson, we kind of saw, and we're like, okay, we kind of understand he's more of a longer format player because, there was no dramas chasing 115. There was a walk in the park. He still scored above 100. I'd have loved to see a little bit more of Keegan Peterson, but I see why Keegan Peterson is benching for Grant Rulofsson. He kind of shut it out, and he did a really good job. To a certain extent, you could even open with Bryce Parsons. That was I think I spoke to you about this on Friday. I want to see Bryce Parsons bat a little bit higher. But if Grant Rulofsson's going to put down the numbers he's putting down, there's nothing that you can do in that. And so for me, I was really happy that Grant Rulofsson kind of showed that, because that's what this tournament is about, to kind of put away all those bad reputations that you've picked up, that you're a longer format player. And I liked it, so I really did enjoy that. I did enjoy Bryce Parsons' bowling. I really thought he did quite well. But my other standout performer, and I would be remiss not to talk about this guy, is Othniel Batman. Remember when he made it to the Proteas side and everyone was like, who? I honestly do think he's now gone up the pecking order from a Proteas fast bowling perspective with him and Dupavilon. I honestly do think that if you're looking for reserve fast bowlers in that Proteas side for that India tour, he needs to be given a look into. And so too, Darren Dupavilon. I thought they bowled really well together, and they took 11 wickets amongst themselves. Batman's average is at 8. His economy rate is below 5. Is below 6. I think Dupavilon's economy is below 6 as well. And I look at the fast bowlers around the country. Luto Sapamla comes to mind. Ogutletele comes to mind. Kwezu Gumete did quite well for the Easterns. But I look at those two and I'm like, they should be the next ones up on the pecking order. Glinton Steedman, I think, may have been usurped by Othniel Batman. He had a great 4-day series last year for the Dolphins in his first season, and now he's just bringing it in. He's just reining it in, and I'm loving it. Herschel America is the only guy who beats him. So that says a lot because Herschel America is Captain America, so we love him. So I really did enjoy that. Let's talk about any other guys who came up and put up their hands and stuff like that. From my side, Northwest, Wesley Marshall. Big fan of his. Really, really angry that the Lions couldn't keep everybody, I know. But there's some people where I was like, guys, you needed to try and keep him. Wesley Marshall's one of those guys. Really enjoyed him at the top. 91 runs, 68 balls throughout the entire series. He had boundary percentage of about 18.75, so he might have to work on that. But I was thoroughly impressed by him at the top of the order.
Yeah, I hope for his sake that move works out. I think it might be better for him as well that he's now going to be the big boy, if you like, and everybody's going to have to follow his lead rather than be one of a large group of really quality players in the Lions. He's always had the talent, but it's maximizing the talent that's been a problem for him. For me, I can't go amiss without the show without mentioning Jason Smith. I don't want to give too much love for the Dolphins, but I'm going to give just a tiny bit. He looked to me like a man who had been working hard pre-season. He hasn't been spending his days down at North Beach in KwaZulu-Natal. He looked assured. He looked in form. He was striking the ball, and also at that last game, his few overs of medium pace was rather important. So he looked like he was finding his feet. Also, I'm probably going to get my pronunciation of this wrong, but the off spinner for the Easterns, Tikawi, Tihokwe.
Clockboy, yes.
Tikawi. It's the Easterns.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
4 for 56 in 9 overs in the tournament. I thought he bowled pretty accurately. He restricted the batsmen that he was bowling against. They weren't able to get underneath him. So that was good to see. Interesting, he was bowling pretty much right the wicket the entire time, which I thought was interesting. I thought that would work in the batsman's favour. But I thought he was good. He was accurate. That was the big thing. It was his accuracy.
Yeah, I think that's a good. I think that those guys were very good. I really did enjoy Clockway as well. Ibn Butta as well. I was that start of his. I was like, okay. And then it just went pear shaped after that for Northwest. What disappointed you, Tim? What truly disappointed you? I know probably it's fielding, but what else disappointed?
No. Let's not go to the fielding because I don't want to give that to the every week. But to the fielding. What disappointed me? I suppose I suppose I would have to go with some of the death bowling. Some of the death bowling, putting Bartman and Chipperfield aside, when those close games, when the teams that lost, when they needed to keep things tight, when they needed to restrict people, the bowling at the death was a problem. So what would happen was we needed a full Yorker out wide, or we needed a slow ball back for length to make sure the basket couldn't get underneath. What tended to happen was you tended to be knee-high for a toss, which would go out into square leg boundary, into the grass. So that was seemed to me like a bit of an area that some of the guys need to work on. The death bowling, not so much anyone specific, but just in general, outside of the Dolphins. Everybody else, they just seemed to lack that quality when it mattered to restrict people. There were a couple of games where they were restricting people very, very easy, sort of 8 and over, and you say, okay, I can restrict that, and there'd be a no ball in the final over, and that kind of thing. It was just it was an application. It's an application that was a bit of a concern.
Yeah, and it was irritating. It was, you kind of sat there going, guys, come on, like, let's try and focus. Let's try be better at this. And I thought going into this, into the couple of games later on, especially on Sunday, where you needed to be dialed in, that was going to happen. But my disappointment was the lack of partnerships in SA Under 19. I love their fearlessness, but there was also another side to it where you could have said, let's try build partnerships, and try and do that. But the other thing that disappointed me was, apart from that 172, it was a low scoring group in Bloom, and everyone keeps on saying that, keeps on using that as a yardstick to say that Bloom surface isn't great. That surface is beautiful. That surface is nice. I just think that some of the it just worked out that it became lower scoring because SA Under 19 was always batting first, which it was an irritation of mine. And because if they were batting second, you could possibly see a 200 on the board. And to a certain extent, sometimes you just want to do that. But yeah, I was disappointed in Northwest and Easterns actually. In that, but that final game was great. It was tight. It's stuff that you want to have in T20, so I was happy with that. Let's now move on to have a look at what the knockout stages look like, or the playoffs. We're now done. We've got our 8 competitors in the quarterfinals. First quarterfinal is Southwestern District against the Titans. You've got the iTech Knights against Western Province. In the second quarterfinal on Tuesday afternoon next week, you've got the Dolphins against the Warriors, which is going to be a cracker. And then you've got the battle of the newbies, the teams that got their statuses as Division 1 teams from a boardroom earlier on in the year, that being the G-Bet Rocks from Paarl against the Northwest Dragons. Tim, what clash are you think of these 4? Do you think is one to watch out for? There's one that you're like, ooh, that's going to be quite nice.
That's bottom 2, isn't it? It's the bottom 2. It's the bottom 2. It's got to be. So it's the Division 2 sides. Division 1 sides. So 2 new Division 1 sides. So there's obviously going to be a rivalry there already by virtue of them getting promotion. So they're going to want to get one over each other. And then it's the Dolphins Warriors. That one, as I said, Dolphins are the strongest in the competition, from setup to coaching to player personnel to batting 11 and bowling and everything. But there's something about this Warrior side that I think is dangerous. I think if Tristan Stubbs comes off, if a Fion Lipper comes off, if Brzezinski continues with his amazing form at the moment, they could find themselves winning that. I think it's those bottom two that are huge.
So you're telling me that the champions are coming from that bottom half of that bracket?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm looking at the top, and I'm looking at that Southwestern Districts and Titans game. I love upsets. I'm an underdog. I'm an underdog man. I love underdogs. Southwestern Districts, Herschel America, Jean Duplessis. Guys, come on. This is your moment. This is it. Tim, you've also got some interesting news that could tip that quarterfinal in the favor of Southwestern Districts.
Yes. Lewis Deploy, who is returning after his stint at Derbyshire, where he averaged nearly 40 at a strike rate of 130 in the T20 Blast this season, is returning, and he will be available for SWD for the rest of the season. For that game, SWD already in my opinion, have got a very good chance with him, and the fact that he's in form with the white ball stuff, that gives him a huge boost. So Lewis Deploy is back with SWD.
I'm excited. I think it's a great thing. We saw pictures on Twitter. David Bedingham is back. Is it David or Daniel? I keep on thinking Daniel.
David,
because I think there was a Daniel Bedingfield or somewhere along the way.
Daniel Smith and David Bedingham.
Yes. Okay. David Bedingham is back from his county stint. We're seeing all the guys coming back from their county stints now coming into this new CSA domestic season. I'm excited for Southwestern Districts. They've got the number one wicket taker in the tournament. They can cause the Titans a lot of problems. The Titans, the thing that's in the Titans' favor is they had time. They've had 2 weeks to kind of sort out that batting order, to try and get their best players up there. I think Jean Hendrik, I think it's not Duplessis. The guy who came in for Dean Alga, Jan Hendrik Potgieter. He needs to play. Yes. Javeshan Pillay needs to play. You may need to split between Dean Alga and somebody else. You may need to, and Neil Brunt, you may need to try and see if Tianus de Bruin is available, because even though Tianus is more of like a 4-day player, he, like Grant Rulofsson, can be one of those guys who can actually be more of a T20 player and give you something else. Because I think those guys are...
Can you tell me when this tournament started? Do you know when the tournament started?
The tournament started about a month ago. Mid last week of September.
So, okay. Because I was told then 6 weeks for tennis.
Okay, so then he's not going to.
So I think he's out of the tournament. I don't think he's going to play at all.
Okay. So that's a big thing for the Titans. I think they need to figure it out. But that other semifinal, that Viepia iTech Night semifinal, I think that's actually quite interesting, because I think if you look at how not the semifinals, the quarterfinals, that second quarterfinal, 2 plays 4. So effectively, you could have either of the Knights and Viepia playing against the new boys in this division, being the Rocks and the Northwest Dragons. That's a much winnable semifinal. But then on the other end, the Dolphins and the Warriors would probably be hoping to try and avoid the Southwestern Districts and try aim at the Titans in that semifinal, because I don't see the Titans. I think if you had to rank these teams 1 to 8 based on their tournament play, the Titans are at the bottom of that list. Probably fighting for 8th spot with the Northwest Dragons. That is how badly the Titans played in that initial week. Because if you had to rank them all, it's the Dolphins at the top. It's probably the Knights afterwards. The Warriors will probably come in at 3. You may even sneak in a Southwestern Districts there at 4. And then after that, you've got a Viepia at 5, with the Rocks, who were underwhelming, around about 6, and then 7 and 8 are the Dragons and the Titans, because the Titans come with an aura. There was no aura there. There was no, even in 4-day cricket, you can feel like you're playing a team that knows what they're doing. There was nothing there. So I'm really worried about them. I hope they can sort it out because I really do love that coaching staff. But quite frankly, I'm excited for everybody else because there are some teams here who haven't won a trophy in a very long time. And I think this is the moment for them to win. The Lions are out. The Dolphins look very good, but it's T20. They're very beatable. And the thing about the Dolphins, which is quite interesting, is that they're not playing on slower wickets. They're playing on wickets where you got to need to push the run rate. So if they get a team that can push the run rate against them and put up a 180, 190, you're not so sure on the back end as to whether they can actually chase it. I love Cyril Avia. I love Grant Juleson, but a couple of wickets there at the top, you're now forcing the likes of Jason Smith, the likes of Bryce Parsons to score runs. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how it goes, especially against that Warriors side, because that Warriors side is the one side that can blow everybody out the water from a batting perspective.
Yeah.
They have realized that they want to literally put that batting order 1 to 6 based on strike rate. That's what Robbie P does, and I'm happy about it. And So essentially, that's what it is. So Tim, any final words going into that quarterfinal weekend? Are there things that you want to see from the teams going into the quarterfinals? Things that you want from general play, or just that you want to see starting next week Tuesday?
That's a good point, what you just talked about the Dolphins, where they subconsciously, I don't think it's deliberate, I think it's subconsciously, they have a reliance on that top 3-4 players. If they all get out for not match, then they've got problems. So that's a very good point to make. What I'm interested to see, is whether anyone has watched the way the SA and the 19s, particularly in that first game, whether the way they watched the way they played. Because we still, as a nation, and it does cipher down to these domestic sides, play predominantly too negatively. So it is why I think the winner is going to come from the Dolphins Warriors. I think whoever wins that game wins the tournament. T20 cricket is a lottery. Anyone can win on that day. But those two are the best teams. And if the Warriors can get that scalp, the way they have those big hitters in that side could be absolutely crucial. I probably said this a couple of weeks ago. So I would just watch that game. Watch the way that Lubba plays. And everyone, Tristan Stubbs, as I mentioned, and Bertsky, watch the way that they play. And I hope that the rest of the teams play like that. Look to score 140 plus as a strike rate.
I think that's the tie of the round. I think that is the massive heavyweight tie. Big. We saw Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury over the weekend. I think that's going to be a big slugfest there. Very good bowling attack against one of the best batting attacks in the tournament, and they're just going to go at it. They are going to go at it. But I hope that they play with no fear. And as you say, I want better fielding. I want a lot of runs, especially runs in the power play. We can't be okay with 40s and 30s in the first 6. You need to be trying to get 60s and 70s and pushing the envelope. Put pressure on the opening bowlers. Put pressure on the fielding team in the middle overs. You need to be able to create situations where you force the other captain to go off script. That's how you win cricket matches. The moment they go off script, they might start giving you overs where guys who haven't bowled in 10 years will start bowling, and then you can come up with an 18-run over. So that's the type of things that I think teams need to want. I would say, if you want to do that, win the toss, bat first, and put them under pressure at the top, because that could be the one of the things that you could do. The pitches will get slower. So by the time we get to that final quarterfinal, it might be a lot slower, but that toss might be a little bit more crucial there. But to a certain extent, I think That's what I want to see from teams. I think a little bit more fearlessness, a little bit more front foot cricket, not reactionary cricket. Be more play on the front foot. Try and put the opposition under pressure. But we're going to discuss that a lot. We're going to discuss all the matchups, each game as they go through next week Monday. So you have a packet and a show where you can be like, okay, game 1, this is what I need to look out for. Game 2, this is what these teams need to do, and so on and so forth. Tim, yes, Tim. Before we go, what would you like to add?
Just to add, and we'll go into this next week with more detail. It's the captaincy. I've spoken about the different captains before, but just on this particular poll, I thought Muthusami's captaincy was exceptionally good for the Northwest. There was a particular game right at the end, I think it was the last game. I can't remember the batsman, right-hand batsman, smacked the left-arm pace bowler. I should know the names, but I can't remember. Smacked it over the covers for a deep 4, and he pulled the bowler across. And he said, "What I want you to do is I want you to bowl exactly the same ball, but just a fraction shorter. Wide at the off stump, drag the batsman, and because it was a fraction shorter, he didn't get underneath it, and the deep covering that ground was able to come across to take the catch. I thought that Muthusami would do that a lot with his bowlers, not overbearingly, but on several occasions they would indicate, "Listen, I need your help." He'd go over and he'd give his pearls of wisdom. So I thought that was very, very impressive.
Yeah, the bowler, I think that you're talking about is Chad Clausen.
There we go. Well done.
Yes. So
that's right. Yes.
Yeah, it was in that over with Clayton August and Dumela Tlokwe there. So yeah. But of the teams that have gone, congratulations to some of the Division 2 sides. You've left an imprint on our hearts. Northern Cape, thank you very much. Just figure out the Van Deer and Kasim Adams situation, and also Rivaldo Munsami. They need to step up. We're happy for what are the other teams? Easterns, really loved you guys. You are a hardworking side. If you want to support a hardworking team, just grinders and guys who grit and grind and love their cricket, that's the Eastern side. KZN Inland, the Tuskers. Oh, man, you gave us something. And you took it away as well. So you give and you take away is what you guys were. But we really enjoyed that. And then last but not least, Border, the Linyati. You guys went out swinging. You went down in a blaze of glory in that final game. I'll never forget that final partnership. And those are the memories for those Division 2 sides, Tim. I really enjoyed those Division 2 sides. Limpopo and Mpumalanga, a little bit more work to work on. There's some things that we loved, but a little bit more to work on there. And next season will probably be a lot better. But those Division 2 sides really gave us a lot of entertainment, edge of our seats type of things. Well, some teams went down to the final ball to try and keep themselves into the tournament. Tim, the other teams in that who are gone, any word on them?
No, you pretty much covered everything there. I thought I can't really add anything. I really enjoyed watching the Division 2 sides. From a personal point of view, there was certainly an element of, even from myself, not knowing what to expect. But overall, I was very pleasantly surprised, particularly with the Border and Northern Cape. I was really impressed with what they put on the show for us. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of the cricket actually throughout the season, not just this competition.
Yes, and that's true. And so, Tim, thank you very much. I think that's where we're going to have to close it out. We've got a podcast that will be coming out on Thursday. that I'll be doing another interview, because obviously now we've gotten a little bit slower as we go to the World Cup. So we'll have another interview. Really interesting cricketing discussion coming up. So please do watch out for episode 26. But for myself and Tim in episode 25, thank you for all the support. Remember to like, subscribe, and follow us on Twitter. Tim's at Tim32_cricket. And I'm at MPHO MOREKI. I'm Pomoreki. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good day and enjoy the rest of your week. It's IPL week, so maybe Tim's watching IPL somewhere along the line. I'm catching it in and out. Certain South Africans are showing their true colors, which is awesome to see. But I'm still rooting for Kagiso and Anochte and Delhi Capitals to see if they can make it to that final. But outside of that, enjoy the week, and we'll see you on the other side. Have a good day. Goodbye. And le sale Kakagiso.